Thank you, sir, and welcome to the session. Our Vice Principal, Professor Dr. Arun Kumar, is not here, but his support, and it was on his initiation that we got the LRC to help and also the IRC to conduct this program. So I thank him for that. And the guest speakers today, or the speakers today, are people who would, to whom I think a great amount of it's my great honor that they have consented to do this in a very short time that I have spoken to them. Dr. Uma Kulkarni, she's from Yenapoya Medical College from the Department of Ophthalmology. I met her. She came here for a workshop on clinical trials. And believe me, it will be a pleasure. It was a pleasure to hear her then. And I'm sure it will be a treat to listen to her and her talk. I welcome her to this educated session today. Welcome, Uma. I also take this, time to welcome Dr. Asma Rahim. Madam is the HOD and Professor of Community Medicine at our medical college, and she has consented to talk on one of the very difficult topics today, that is academic integrity and plagiarism. We know that, that is something talked about, and it is something that's really, we are finding ways and means to actually fight and get over this. Well, I have the invite. As you know, the Institutional Review Board is a board which includes IRC and IEC. And therefore, Cherian sir, the chairman of the IEC Government Medical College, as well as Dr. Seema Madam, the HOD Pharmacology, I'm sure they would also be joining us and we would take inputs from them. And they've also been very supportive because the IEC completion certificate is also one of the prerequisites when you do this thesis submission today. Now, all this is possible because we got a platform, the Zoom platform, and the RCMed coordinator at Government Medical College Kozhikode, an IRC member before, and because of, her commitments in RCMed was why she didn't, but it is because of her that we got this Zoom platform. Thank you, and I welcome Dr. Padma. She's here today with us, and thank you very much, Padma, for being there. Well, the IRC committee has members from all other departments of Government Medical College and medicine, surgery, ortho, and I welcome one and all who are here. And above all, the postgraduates, the very important people who are going to listen. And I'm sure and I hope they are benefited from this. I believe that, this session should help them and make the sailing smooth as they submit their final thesis. So with these words, I request our principal, Professor Dr. Sajid Kumar sir, to say a few words and probably formally inaugurate this Zoom meet. Over to you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, all. We all know that Kerala is passing through one of the worst tragedies due to landslide at Wayanad. My heart goes to these victims, survivors, and to their families. This Zoom meeting is arranged regarding plagiarism, already discussed by Dr. Sapna, by the Institutional Research Committee, Kozhikode. First of all, let me congratulate Dr. Sapna-IRC, the Nodal officer, who had taken keen interest to arrange such a meeting in a short time, because it is very important for the postgraduates for their successful completion of the thesis. Today, we are having two eminent faculties to discuss this topic. Dr. Uma Kulkarni, Professor of Ophthalmology, Yenapoya Medical College. Then second, our own faculty, Dr. Asma Rahim, Professor at the Department of Community Medicine. And other dignitaries like Dr. Arun Kumar, our Vice Principal, he is out of station. That is why probably due to range problem, I think this may be the reason. Then Dr. Professor Cherian sir, the chairman, IEC, and Dr. Seema, another Department of Pharmacology, member secretary, probably she is also joining, and Dr. Sandhya is here, and Dr. Padma, and other IRC members and postgraduates. And for this Zoom meeting. It is very important for them. So please listen, and I officially inaugurate this Zoom meeting. Okay, over to Sapna Nambiar for further proceedings without wasting much time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think I'll hand over to Sandhya. Sandhya.
Okay, madam. Thank you, sir. We truly appreciate the time and effort you have taken to be with us despite your busy schedule. Knowing that we have your guidance and encouragement means a lot to us and motivates us to strive for excellence. Thank you once again, sir. Now we have 3 presentations scheduled for today. All the information of postgraduates. If you have any questions, please enter them in the chat box and we'll address them at the end of the session. Dr. Biren will look into the questions and we'll have an answer to all your queries at the end. So we'll move on to the first session. Okay. Okay.
I think Sandhya, you're okay. Yeah, fine. You're sharing the screen.
Yeah. I'll just stop sharing after this, madam. Okay, so first session is Introduction to Thesis Submission by Dr. Sapna-IRC. Madam is the Nodal Officer of Institutional Research Committee, Govt Medical College Kozhikode. She is an additional professor working in the ENT department at Govt Medical College Kozhikode. And she's an ex-major Army Medical Corps. And she's a past secretary AOI Malabar chapter and also past chairperson Women's Wing IMA 22-23. So over to you, madam. I'll just stop sharing so that you can share. Yeah, madam, you can share your screen. Yes, madam, you can see your screen.
Yeah, can you see my screen, Sandhya? And am I audible?
Yes. We can see your screen. You're audible.
Okay. As Sajid sir said, we are going through a very tragic moment and tragic times, but then we must realize that we have to be, as a professional body, that's exactly what we are supposed to be. We have to be going and our things keep moving at the same time as we even help those. And this academic session is truly for PGs who are going to make their final thesis submission. I understand that we have postgraduates from probably the first year, second year, and third year. Now, the Institutional Research Committee at Kozhikode conducts, and I'm sure every medical institute has the research methodology workshop for postgraduates. We do that at the beginning when you're getting into. And the whole point is to understand that a thesis or dissertation was something that was talked of not today or yesterday. It is from the day post-graduation is their thesis was there. And therefore, we need to understand that basically as a doctor, you're not being trained to probably just give exams or, you're being trained for life. And as a doctor, scientific, how to conduct a scientific study, how to probably truthfully do it is what is being taught in your postgraduate days. However, over a period of time, I think, we've taken it very lightly. And now we have regulatory bodies who are coming and feeling that this cannot be done. And we cannot let it loose like this. So remember that, besides your clinical acumen, besides you only become complete when you probably learn to question. You probably learn to do a study the right way, scientifically. And that is why thesis is something that's talked of in postgraduate degrees, and dissertation is something that comes in PhD. It's more or less the same, only probably the magnitude is what differs. But somehow it's become a requirement for a program. Like since your MD, MS requires a thesis, believe me, it had come down to next. I think it has now been revived by the NMC by saying that, all faculty must publish. And therefore you say publish or perish. So you have to publish. And therefore now people have started looking into this aspect. But it is not just for publishing. but it is also that it is the basis of how science moves forward. So it has a lot of things, and the purpose, not only that it increases your knowledge, why you should know to do research skills, but you should develop critical thinking. You cannot take facts, and we are in an era where many things may be told. You may find many things that come up on YouTube or, in technology, wherever you go to a site, on an app. So to develop that critical thinking, especially in science, is very important. And therefore, you must develop that level of competence. And a thesis is the first step that you take when you're probably, getting this. And therefore, it's going to take you further in your career. Now, we tell you that a thesis topic is generally something that you have to choose within 6 months of joining. Yes, when you look at it at 6 months, when you join, you feel, what is it? And that's rightly why you have seniors, you have a guide, you have a co-guide, you have the department HOD. And to add to that, in the institutes, you have an IRC, IEC. So there are n number of members whom you can approach to probably, help you with the study. And every member who's, probably objecting, it's not objecting, it's actually giving you a suggestion, is trying to make your study more robust. We always say that everything depends on a research question. And what generally we find is your seniors or somebody may tell you, take something which is simple so that at the end you can just wrap it around and give something and present it. See, thesis just lies, nobody looks at it. So now the NMC has come up that your thesis will be given marks. And not only that, in your viva, in your postgraduate exam, you will be required, just like a doctorate, when you take a doctorate and present your dissertations, you are required to defend your thesis. It's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of why you felt this should be done and how you went about doing it. Therefore, even sit with your guides and get a question which is specific, clear, and of course, you have a limitation with time. Therefore, the word feasible becomes very important. You may always continue. This may be the first step that you take. And if you take that first step rightly, you can continue in a much better way. Now, I'm sure in a protocol itself, you know what all are the components. So I'm not going and revising that. But what I want to tell you is that you have certain timelines to maintain. And believe me, the essence of professionalism is keeping to time. You develop a research question. You make a protocol with the help of your guide and department. You get it approved by the IRC. In fact, now we tell people to present. That is because when they present, we are sure that at least you've gone through it once, you've read it. So now when you know that you have to present, you really have the challenge that, you'll be asked questions. And unfortunately, we here only do things when we are maybe kicked to do it or we are really made to do it. So therefore, if you present, you should be happy because that sharpens you, that makes you, there are a lot of perspectives that you get, and that becomes important. And then you go to the ethical aspects, which is important for any study. Now, once you do the protocol for the first year, second year PGs, I know those who are submitting this may not be important. Remember that introduction and review of literature is something you can always do before you start your data. And this is something you could get, checked, corrected by your guides and even other faculty who are probably, having keen interest in that area. So this is the time that you should utilize. You should not be doing this at the end of your thesis. You should be writing. Now, what is introduction? You've had a question, you've got a protocol, you got your permission to conduct it. Now you have operational definitions. When I say a particular thing, I have to have an operational definition. It may vary from place to place. It may be different. So you must have an operational definition. You could write it down. You could rephrase it. You can again go through it. So you have time. Now, review of literature, I'll be talking about that. But what I mean to say, these are two things that you can do early. And you can even do it as and before you begin data collection. So it is not that you have to do these things at the end. And when you do it at the end and you do it in a hurry, you are bound to, you don't get that enough time to probably do justice to it. So you start collecting your data and preparing your master sheet. You know that you need a statistician. Another thing that I would like to tell you is a statistician is not a person to whom you just give the data and take everything. The statistician has to be with you when you devise and you actually are thinking how you're about to do it. Otherwise, you'll be surprised that you will come up with conclusions that you never even thought of, because they really don't know the meaning of the data that you're giving them. So you have to sit with them. You have to probably tell them what you were thinking in mind and what are the things. And you must have time to take the results. Unfortunately, we think that results means, making a graph with so many males, so many females, so much of age group. That's not what your analysis should bring you to. Your analysis should bring you to something which is closer to prove or disprove the question that you began with. And when you do that, then probably you could discuss as to what all has happened and how, in literature, what is there and what you are probably talking of can make a change. And this would be with the help of peers, would be with the help of faculty, definitely your guide. And therefore, do not please come with your studies at the end of your, or when you have to submit it, but do that monthly or at least review it every quarterly, so that everything is seen and, word to word is read, not only by you, but by your guide. Because invariably, the complaints that the guide says that you get it in the last minute, and then you say, my submission is tomorrow. If I don't do it, then, you're probably not doing justice. But then you must understand that it is not harming them, it's going to harm you more. So timeline is very important in how you go it. People who are submitting now, probably this may not be very relevant because you've already gone through all this and you have your data and you're planning to analyze. But remember that nothing like an original, honest work. I think if there are two words I would like to tell about your thesis is it should bring out your honesty and originality. So it is definitely an academic requirement. It is an academic requirement because you need to get the degree. But remember that why it is imposed on you is important. If you develop the right skill, even when you get out, whether you're in a medical college, you're in a private institute, you are in a clinic, you will have that critical thinking. You will know exactly how a study is to be done. And you will yourself develop, the excitement to do it and probably come up with something which nobody noticed, and you noticed it, but if you don't know how to go about it, you would be in, you would not enjoy it. So it's not only publications, but it is a personal development. And as a doctor, you have a commitment to the community that you're working, to the society, right? So KUHAS itself, I went to the KUHAS site. It itself very clearly says that we are giving you, or we are telling you to do the thesis because we want you to probably become skilled in, to develop the spirit and skill of inquiry. You must know that when somebody just tells you something, the statement is not taken. It needs to be checked. It needs to be probably gone through a study. And you have to formulate the right question. I'm sure all of you are using, ChatGPT and other AI tools where exactly you have to give the right question. The training is in giving the right question. And so is it for your research. And all this is going to help you in every aspect as you grow as a doctor in future too. Now, as I already mentioned, timelines and prerequisites. Remember that many of them give their protocols in the second year. Now, I'm sure that you must have probably been told that, thesis is something you can wrap around. Now, that really you would not be able to do justice. So, and it is understood, but unfortunately, we do not wish that you should be troubled. And so we have no other option at that time but to probably help you so that you can complete it. But the minimum time that is required for the thesis work for any candidate is at least a minimum of 9 months. And they say that you must, the university itself requires 3 months, and you see that before your exam date, before 6 months, you have submitted this. And that's exactly why we give you a date. Please do not, I underline the word, do not look for doing it with fine. Try to do it even before you do it. And every part of your thesis must be read and gone through. Grammatical errors, mistakes. If you read it every morning, just like you do when you prepare for your exam, I'm sure all this will be taken care of. There are a lot of things that you have to do and you need to do when you are, preparing the thesis. I am sure you understand that Kuhas mentions they need 4 copies of the thesis with a CD that you need to give a soft copy as well. Now, remember that right from the paper quality to the font, some people, they do not pay attention to this and come up with their own fonts and sizes, which is not very much appreciated. If there are certain, things that are laid down, it would be better that you stick to them. And unnecessarily, sometimes we have even protocols running into pages. You must understand that somebody has to read through all this. So it is better that you give relevant, valid, and things and in the chronological order that it is mentioned. Always number the pages of your document. That is very nice, so that if there is anything for your guide also, they can do it and tell you page by page. Now this I'm trying to tell you because now you are going to submit your thesis. And a very common mistake, what I would like to highlight is that, as I told you, when you give it for analysis, you give the whole data. First of all, you yourself should probably analyze this data interim sometimes. So when you get about 20 patients, you just see where you are heading. Is there anything that is going wrong? Is there any problem that is arising? So that you can get over it and get somewhere to a better conclusion. Now, when you see your entire data at the end, even if there were small mistakes that you could correct, now you have lost that time. So it's always better, and I keep telling even our postgraduates that please come back with your questions or with your data. Don't keep your master chart and data for the end. Okay, it is not about just making tables and graphs and just saying that this p-value. That must make sense when it comes to applying to the patient or to the community at large. A common thing that you do is you write the table and you then explain the table below. Just today, there was somebody who came and I was telling, see, faculty or the people who are going to read this definitely understand the figures and the tables that you're presenting. Of course, if you analyze it and give it in a better form and add to it, that would make more sense. Always your references and citations, keep it in Vancouver style. That is what is given by Kuhas. It's better to stick to one style. Of course, when you give it for publication in various journals, they may vary, but try to stick for thesis submission to this style. The soft copy that you give also has a thing exactly that the way you have to give it. You have to mention your title, subtitle, your name, degree, subject, guide name, department, college, place, and year. Please keep the name of your guide, the email of your guide always ready when you go, even for submissions, because when suddenly you're asked to fill, this should be something that you have it written with you so that, when you're filling it somewhere, it becomes more easy. Now, introduction. Please, as I mentioned to you, it's not everything, but give your background and your operational definitions as to what are you defining a particular thing. It could be a simple study, diet and nutrition. Is it essential to healthy being? Now, what do you define health there as should come out? Your operational definition, if it has a reference with the reference. Of course, depending on what kind of a study you're taking, your research question and its purpose and significance. All this must come out in your introduction in a nutshell. Now, review of literature. This is one place where I'm exactly what you do is what I've written, what you see on the right side. You just write down, a study that you have got and you say this is their findings. So you are not justifying what you're trying to seek from review of literature. Remember that literature review has two things. You have to do contextualization and justification. Suppose I say I'm going to study or I'm going to tell, or my title is diet and exercise essential for, say, nutrition and exercise essential for a healthy lifestyle. I have to go on literature basically because this idea came to me. But when I go in literature, this idea would have come before me to many people. Now, when it has come to many people, they would have gone through it. They would have gone through their mistakes. And therefore, I can start at a much better step if I take all their inferences. So if I say that I explain what is healthy, I explain what is being told in health, probably till date, and then go on to what all has been done or how exercise has been reviewed, how many studies are there, what I feel has been a landmark or a study which is of real significance. Are there any systemic reviews or meta-analysis where all literature was taken and probably analyzed by somebody. Now, this is what review of literature is. Unfortunately, we again keep getting the same study. So at least in your final thesis, try to sit and spend some time. And this is one area where invariably we would have plagiarism. To an extent, it is acceptable because, of course, you will be taking certain statements, but acknowledge what you're taking from any study and be comprehensive. Try to categorize it. It's like, if I'm defining healthy life and effect of nutrition and health, exercise, I would first talk on nutrition, then probably talk on exercise, and then say where we are as on date, and go on with my methodology and how I would be probably or where it has brought me, so that I don't repeat these things which have been already done in literature. So your methodology is basically your research question and your approach to it. A same research question can be undertaken by various methodologies. So remember that your methodology should be robust. And that is what we in the IRC and IEC keep on telling you and try to make you. I remember that, in our protocols, when we tell some suggestions, they just accept it, or they go and tell to the IEC that, look, so there is an objection sometimes from there. Now, these are bound to happen. But when you take something there, you must learn to defend it if you thought, because you made the change when you think it is justified, or you make a methodology when you think it is justified. If not, you must again sit over it and probably get back and decide what is to be done. All said and done, as I already mentioned, honesty, originality should be there. And you have a number of choices to make, but decide and probably stick so that you're specific and within the timeline. Once you have now your master chart, you already have your results. Sit with the statistician. Do not just give the data and wait for them. Maybe when they come, you have to spend some time with them, where they say that there are 6 components, how to go about it. You see what your principal findings are. What are you come out with after all this? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What is it when you compare it with other studies which were there till now? Does it make any meaning to you? Is it going to be taken up probably by clinicians or policymakers? Is there a scope for it? Of course, maybe you don't complete it in toto, but you've reached somewhere and you realized only that there is a big problem and that needs to be sorted. That itself is a big thing. So at least you know that there lies a problem when you're undertaking it. So there would be unanswered questions, and that is what should come out in your discussion before you make your final conclusion, which is probably, that's how it should be. The body of a good paper, they say, it should begin with a thunder. That's how it comes, and end with a lightning, where that you understood your topic and you conclude remarking what you've come out with your study and give your conclusion precisely. Now, we all know that the studies today are looking and asking you to give your certificate saying, that you need to go run it through a plagiarism software. Now, this is what the annexure is in the KUHAS, that remember that if yours is an original study, you have sat down with it, no matter where you put it, it will not show any plagiarism. But I know you can put your hand on your heart, and I'm sure if you know that you have not done justice, you have to be scared of these softwares, because there when you put it, and remember that we at LRC are now trying to use Drillbit to help you, and you've been using it because KUHAS has suggested of you. You have a number of plagiarism softwares which you can use, which Madam would be highlighting. Now, this certificate says that you know it, and we would be helping you with the software. You can even put it before you come to us into a software and try to reduce it where you feel that, there is a lot of plagiarism, or you've just taken it down verbatim from probably a journal or a book, and you could make the changes. The same thing is then to be signed and given by your guide or supervisor. Now, this is how we or KUHAS is asking you to do it, and we are probably going to help you to go through the entire exercise. So when you make your final submissions, try to concentrate on these aspects. It's better late than never. You could probably do a few of these, and we could answer to your queries depending on specific problems that you have. Thank you so much. And this was what I would like to tell on before you make your final thesis submission.